Yo, yo, yo. Hey, guys, welcome back to the Best Practices Show podcast. My name is Kirk Behrendt. Sorry for yelling. I'm just so excited. I love and appreciate you guys so much for listening. The podcast is hitting new heights all the time, and I just couldn't be more grateful. I love this profession so much. I'm going to make one promise, and it's the only thing we're going to do with this podcast. I'm going to bring you the best thinking, the best thoughts, the best coaches, the best speakers, the best leaders, the best teachers in all of dentistry to bring some great information, to show you best practices so you can create a better practice and a better life. And so you can count on that. And today we do exactly that with Heather Crockett, one of our amazing coaches here at Act Dental. We talk about the realities of coaching dentists and helping them understand how they have a real team and why dentistry is a team sport. So please listen up. I know you guys will enjoy it, and we'll see you soon. Hey guys, welcome back to the Best Practices Show podcast. I love that you are showing up. And today we're going to be talking about one of the things that makes your practice work, which is you're not just a dentist. You're a player. You're a coach on a team. Dentistry is a team sport. And I've got Heather Crockett on today. And this is going to be important for you guys to understand this. I want you to think about this. We're in the middle of football season, so we're going to draw some analogies. But on the drive to work, in the garage, if you're walking, whatever you're doing while you're listening to this podcast, I want you to think how it relates to your practice. Heather, thanks for being on.
Hey, Kirk. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, you're brilliant. Like a lot of times whenever we do a podcast, so obviously Heather's an amazing coach here, and she carries a lot of other responsibilities. You're like the ultimate multitasker. You're running marketing, you're helping us podcast, you're coordinating this. I just got my new core values medals. Oh, you guys are going to love these things. And she makes a lot of things come alive. So Heather, give us a little background. I always love people to know who you are before we get into the topic, but tell us who you are. Who's Heather Crockett?
I am a coach here at Act Dental. I am fortunate enough to say that I am part of this amazing team. I live in Utah with my husband and my 3 kids. I have a dentistry background from the summer of 2000, and moving onward and upward, I just get to be part of so many things here at Act. Like you said, Kirk, it's fun.
Well, we love having you here. And so you propose this idea, as you do with a lot of these ideas, like dentistry is a team sport. And I'm like, you got to explain this. So go down this path and share like how to think better about my practice from a dentist listening.
Well, my brain goes in a whole lot of different directions, and we do speak in analogies sometimes. And last night I went to a football game with my husband, and I was thinking of a couple of my clients and some of the struggles that they've recently been having. And some of those struggles come from the fact that they, in my mind, I'm thinking that they're the quarterback and they're going on the field, and they need their team to come with them, and they need their team, right? Like this is a huge deal. They need to have a team around them supporting them as they're going onto the field to play this team sport. Right. They can't do it by themselves. And oftentimes they carry too many of the things that they need to do with them.
Yeah. And you're noticing this trend too. So we coach a lot of great practices, and a lot of the practices come to us. They're really good practices, but they struggle with how do we get better? And overfunctioning is a big problem. You're seeing it too. I saw it today, even dentists doing too much. Can you explain, give us some specific examples?
I was just talking to a client this morning about how they could delegate using their digital printer to one of their team members. Right. But sometimes they're a little bit hesitant to let something like that go or to train their team on it, but they're doing one too many things. We talk about better practice, better life. Part of that better practice, better life is letting go, delegating, and elevating to our other team members. And we need to be able to trust our team to take these tasks on to protect us, right? Like as the quarterback, we need that offensive line. We need that center to protect us so that we don't get sacked.
Yeah, absolutely. Because again, two of the biggest ones that I saw this week, a lot of HR issues. So if you're a dentist, like, oh, I got to sit down and talk about like payroll and all this. That's a pretty big responsibility if you're doing the dentistry also. So you got to think better about that. Also, photography is one I see constantly. I got a lot of people going out to COIS doing great stuff or spirit, and they're doing awesome stuff. Like it's incredible. But then they come back and say to themselves, no one can do this except me. And that becomes a challenge. Now you're painting yourself in a corner. You got to think better than that. And so when you think about football, now I'm extra biased about football because I have a son that plays football. And this is the first year that I'm actually not on the coaching staff. So I'm actually the announcer for the freshman football games, which there's only like 11 people in the stands. And that's where I'm enjoying myself. But now there's a real coach coaching them. And we've always said this, like in football, and I played football in high school and in college. I was on a football team in college. I won't use the word play, but we'll use that word loosely. But football is the hardest sport. Here's why, because there's so many moving pieces to it. You need 11 players moving in unison at the same time with the same steps. You're also reacting to another 11 on the other side of it. So it is critically important that we are all on the same page. We're all going the same direction. We've discussed where we're going, and you can't catch your own pass. And so it is, and it's powerful when you can watch 11 people execute perfectly, but it requires a lot of clarity, and you can't switch the game plan in the middle of the game. You can't go, hey, we were going to pass a lot and we're not going to pass. Now I understand calling an audible, but an audible is still within the game plan. Can you explain that and how it works in a dental practice, Heather?
Well, you're going to have plays, right? You go out and each team member knows the play when the quarterback calls the play or when the coach calls the play. And so then the team knows how to execute that play. They know their role. They know exactly which route to run in that play. Well, if we don't tell our team what those plays are, we don't tell them what our ultimate goal is, they're going to be completely lost. So when you go to pass, you go to throw, your wide receiver is not going to be there to receive the pass that you just threw because you didn't ultimately tell them that game plan to begin with.
Right. Absolutely. Right. Yeah. And so the game plan, and I'll translate this to how it works in your business. It works the same in our business, is like, we have a plan, and I should laminate it, Heather, just like a head coach does on the sidelines. Here's what we're going to do. On the front side of that laminated sheet of paper is our core values, what our 3-year target is going to be, what our 1-year target is going to be, and how what we're doing right now translates and relates to the 1-year plan. Let me give an example. Like a quarterly plan is really important. We know exactly what we're going to do here. And again, we don't have the perfect organization, but this is what we teach other dental practices to do. We know as a company, Act Dental, what we're doing for 90 days. So Heather, we've had how many priorities this quarter?
2 this quarter.
2. That's it. Not 92. 2. And we're measuring a few KPIs, which are leading indicators. So the game plan is very succinct. And now we have 18 team members, which everyone's like, oh, when you have a big team, that's when it gets better. No, it doesn't. I love the team members we have. And what makes the game better is when everyone knows the game plan. You can ask anybody in our company, and I hope they would say, like, we only have 2 priorities. Did we finish them? Yes. And now there's a collective confidence around that. So you now know the game plan. We also can execute weekly and know, like, are we on track or off track? And it keeps everything in sync. What else comes to mind when you think about football and how it relates to a dental practice?
Well, like we were talking about before, when the quarterback takes on too much, right? So the practice owner has too many things on their plate. They need to delegate that to other team members. Okay. And not necessarily does each task, each role have a similar amount of things on their plate, but the more spread evenly the tasks are within the practice, the better things are going to run.
Yeah.
Okay? Because we have that expectation and we have that role. So we could take this in multiple facets, like our function accountability chart. Who's in charge for each thing?
Yep.
Okay. So that when we come off of the field, we can say, oh, we missed that, quarterback got sacked. What do we need to do to change and improve? Do we need a different offensive lineman to take the center's job then? Do we need to try that for a couple of rounds to see if that is what we need to do? Maybe the previous center just doesn't quite have what it takes, right? The get it, want it capacity to do it thing that we get from traction. Is that person in the wrong role? Oftentimes we hear of a high school player, oh, well, I did wide receiver in high school. Well, now in college, they might switch to a completely different role.
For sure.
So their coach might see their potential somewhere else. And we need to do the same thing in a dental practice.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you start to increase standards, I have a couple of things that came to mind. I'm a big Nick Saban fan. He's arguably, or not arguably, he is the best college coach of all time. And so my family just sent me a video in which he was describing how he runs spring practice. He says, listen, high achievers don't like mediocre people. Mediocre people do not like high achievers. Just you need to call that out. And he says, you know what I do every spring practice? I'm thinking about who I can get on the bus and what seat do they go in? And then I'm thinking, who do I get off the bus? Now, he's pretty intense. Now, I'm not suggesting that you're as intense as that, but you got to be thinking about how are we constantly improving the ride for everybody here and how we put people in the right seats. So that's something to consider. You mentioned function accountability chart, and I love that. And I'll share with you because I had a conversation this morning with an amazing dentist. Your ability to be aligned with the other people that are in responsible positions, like a leadership team, we call it a traction team, your head coaching team, your coaches. Could you imagine playing on a football team where the offensive coordinator and the head coach do not get along and they are not on the same page? It's going to confuse every single person. The key of alignment is essential. And so this dentist was telling me this morning, like, I have a great office manager. She's awesome. She can do this, but I don't really gel with her. I don't really like her. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, but that's a core value. Yeah, but she does a lot. And I'm like, okay, well, you're saying the word but a lot, and what but does is it erases everything in front of it. The alignment of people at the top, whether it be in your dental practice or at home, is critical. I would even go this far. So if you're a dentist and you're in a 5-doctor practice and you have 75 team members or whatever, the problem is not your team. The problem is the 5 leaders at the top. Any crack in daylight between the 5 blinds everybody else. And so that is a sports analogy. It's a life analogy. It's a family analogy that's critical. So the alignment. And so I'll give you the anecdote for that. It's called alignment time. So as a coach, you got to have alignment time. You should never go onto the practice field where you didn't align with the other coaches. Alignment time in our business is scheduled. So leaders in my organization, we get aligned every single week so that we're talking the same language. We don't have to agree. That's not what I'm saying, but we better be aligned. We can adamantly disagree. That's totally cool. But I'll tell you, before we leave, we're going to be completely aligned. Sarah, my wife, 23 years being married. Alignment time, and actually I'm going to do that after this, is called date night, where we sit down and we get aligned on everything, because any crack in daylight between us confuses the heck out of the kids. If I say 11 p.m., they got to be home, and she says another time that's a little bit more agreeable with what they want, or they're going to exercise that grayness in there and use it to their own advantage. The same thing happens with your team members, and the same thing will happen with your patients. Part of what you're doing here is don't make dentistry harder than it is. You have a group of people. They're on your team. You have to treat them like a team. You have to practice. You have to have a game plan. You've got to have core values that attract the right type of players. You got to treat it like practice. And with the repetition over and over again, you stick to a game plan like the one I suggested earlier, where it's a 90-day scorecard. It's 90 days. Every human being in the world can get around 90 days, 3 months. We only have a couple things to do. Would you guys agree, the listeners? If we get a couple things done in the next 90 days that we've all agreed, these are the things we need to get done, it's going to make everybody's life better. It does. It works. So, and stay focused on what matters most, which is, let's do this right now. What other thoughts should we consider, Heather?
Let's talk about confidence here for a second, because if your quarterback goes out and is kind of unsure, what is the feel of the rest of the team?
Yeah, we're screwed. We're not
right.
That's our leader. Our leader's down.
Exactly. So you have to go in with all this confidence to say, look, yes, we are down by 14 points and we have 5 minutes left of the game. But you guys, we can totally do this.
Right.
And is that team going to rally around that quarterback? Absolutely. Yes.
For sure.
Or or the quarterback can go in and go like, oh, well, looks like we lost this game, right?
Right.
Not okay. So coming in with that confidence factor, that right, positivity breeds positivity. So as you go into this game and this situation, it's okay to say, okay, we're going to call a timeout for a minute. We're going to get really confident. We're going to get aligned on the game, the play that we're going to do on the game plan for the next few minutes. And we are going to make this happen together because we can. It's absolutely possible. We've seen it happen before. So having that level of confidence, that's another huge factor here.
Yeah, I want to piggyback on that. You nailed it right there. Confidence is like porcelain. With every layer, it gets stronger. And so I like to get in the mind of a dentist. Like, it's so powerful. And these micro wins. Like, let's say, you have this team and they're not doing really well. We win the first week. Wow, we're 1-0. Then we don't win the second week. Now we're 1-1. And then we get a little micro victory. That's why pulsing quarterly, measuring a few things. It sounds like we're losing when we're measuring everything and we're not achieving it. I have been there. I lived there for a long period of time. Then when we fell under this operating system, which is so powerful, and thank you for, traction and like all those thought processes of simplifying the entire business. Now you can collectively, as a business, as a practice, whether you have 18 people or 1,800 people, you can say, we have two priorities. We finished it as a company. When you draw a line through them, that confidence you're talking about, Heather, they say, oh my gosh, we can do more. And you as the leader go, what'd you guys say? You think we can do better than this? And they go, yes. And you go, okay. Now you're truly leading them to a better place. When you have a few KPIs that are leading indicators, leading KPIs, whether they be production per visit or visits or hygiene reappointment percentage or unscheduled active patients, that number starts to come down. And you can see micro victories every single week. You can see everybody sit up a little bit straighter. You can see those are leading indicators that impact the lagging indicators, which are called production, collections, dollars over the counter, accounts receivable start to go down. You go, holy moly. Listen, dentistry is quite predictable. It's wildly predictable. That's why private equity is descending on dentistry. I know you want to get all fired up for a second, but let's go there. A lot of these big organizations are coming into dentistry because they're like, this is crazy predictable. It is. And I want you to know, as a dentist listening, you can create a wildly predictable, healthy, awesome practice. What you have to do is you got to simplify the processes. You got to think like a team. You got to put a game plan together. That is that clear sheet that's been laminated on front and back. Here's our 3-year plan. Here's our core values. Here's our issues list. And on the back of it is your 90-day scorecard. How close or how far away? And then we have countermeasures. Heather, what's a countermeasure? So let's say I'm in a game, we're behind. We need to, I'm looking at my players. We need a countermeasure. What's a countermeasure?
Oh my gosh, a countermeasure is, so we talk about things, for example, our stats, right? Our KPIs. I'm going to give a really hard example. Last night, the game that I went to, our rushing yards at the half was -5.
Whoa.
-5 rushing yards. Okay. So I'm going to look at that and go, are you serious right now? So when we go into halftime, we're going to put countermeasures in place. The coaches, the team, we're going to say, holy cow, look at our stats.
Yep.
Our KPI says this, negative rushing yards. Okay. Now, as the running back and the quarterback, we have this fire. We are going to make those rushing yards positive again. Not only that, but we're going to blow it out of the water. By the end of the third quarter, those rushing yards were better than the opposing team.
Right.
So
it's
countermeasures,
awesome.
Yes, countermeasures are anything that we put in place to change a number in a positive way.
Yeah. And so real simple, if it's in red, my question as a team collectively is how do we get in the green? So if we're negative rushing yards, we got to change our blocking scheme. If we're negative in hygiene reappointment compared to what our goal should be. So if we're at 92, we should be at 92% every single week. But last week we're at 82%. What are the countermeasures we can put in place? Let's up the game on our verbal skills. Let's tighten up our systems. A lot of times your answer, your countermeasure will be a system. That's what's really cool. It doesn't have to be an effort. It doesn't have to be a new person. It doesn't have to be a new purchase. We just need to tighten up our checklist, our system. Now you can accurately diagnose where do we need to go. And again, I'll go back to the predictable thing. It's a really simple game when you make it simple, and get everybody working on the same page. Heather, I love this. Sports analogies are often my favorite because you see a team come together around a set of values. You get the right people in the right seats. You simplify the game plan. You put in measures and countermeasures. You make the alignment super tight at the top. You practice over and over again. And then when it comes to the game, that becomes fun. If you've ever played a sport, you know how that is. A great week of practice usually translates to a great game. The game becomes the fun part, it's just good stuff. So any last thoughts you have, Heather? Any last thoughts?
I would just say, rely on your team more than you ever have before. Delegate and elevate to them, right? See them as your peers. They are here for the same amount of ownership that you are. They want to see you and the practice succeed. So really, really rely on your team in that way. Don't think of them as like, oh, but la la la, as you were talking to a dentist earlier today. I don't want you to get stuck in that, right? Yeah. We need to be really going in this direction of, as a team collectively, we are going to win this game together.
Yeah. So I'll finish with one favorite quote. It's another dad that I used to coach with. His name is Rich Beckman. Rich, shout out to you because he's in the Rugby Hall of Fame at the University of Wisconsin. Like, he knows sports, he knows teamwork, rugby. Those guys are awesome. And he would say this as one of my assistants, like, hey guys, it's not always about winning and losing, but I will tell you, winning is a lot more fun than losing. And you can understand that as a dentist. Like, when you're winning, it doesn't have to be all the time. But like, when we have a winning season, let's say 2022 is a winning year and you're feeling pretty good. 2023, yeah, we have more wins this year. Now it's fun to be on this team. You find a higher caliber of player. You find better thinking. Your goals are bigger. It's just a much more fun ride. So I hope this was helpful. And we want all of your years to be winning. So if you're not experiencing a winning season, give us a call. Like, don't sit there and say, I can't figure this out. This is what we do all day long. We help people. Well, a lot of the practices we come to are already winning. They just want to win a little bit better, have a little bit more fun. Don't try to figure this out on your own. You're in an awesome profession. Dentistry is the greatest profession ever. You can make all the rules. You can decide the game plan. You can decide who's on your team. You can decide who to work on. Boy, I should just stop now. It's Friday. I get fired up on this stuff. So Heather, thanks for being on. I really appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Kirk. Anytime we get to talk about this and football, even better.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you guys for listening to the Best Practices Show. Hey, if you enjoyed today, do us a favor, just hit the share button, share this with your friends. Keep sending us suggestions for things that you guys want to see. We want to make your practice and your life better. That's our game. So until we see you guys next time, or you hear from us next time, keep watching or keep listening to the Best Practices Show. You guys have a great day.